Welcome to Cactus Core Plays what could be the finale, or at least penultimate episode of Zero Escape Virtue's Last Reward. My name is Kevandre. Last time we went into the final escape room, which is called Q, and it's a stupid room that I hate, filled with stupid things that I hate. But we did it. I did end up actually having to cheat for a little bit of that because for some reason the dice game is dumb, but the rest of it I did. Fucking ridiculous shit. Anyway, that's it for that. So now it's just going to be nothing but visual novel this whole time, which is fine with me. Huh. It opened.
We should get back to the Floor A warehouse then.
Hey, wait. Did you guys hear something? What? You didn't hear it? It came from over there. It sounds like something turning on. See, I told you. This screen wasn't on before. Oh, this must be where I put in the Kiroshiki and the Jumpy doll.
You're right. Guess it was set to turn on when we opened the door.
It looks like an authentication screen. I think we need to put in an ID and password.
Yeah, but what?
That was when I noticed the illustration. The lion was eating the sun? The lion is eating the sun. The lion is eating the... Memento Mori. Oh, maybe that's it. Remember death, if the ninth lion ate the sun. That was more than 9, I think, right? Oh, of course. This was the real ninth lion. But if that was the case... Memento Mori. Remember death. Memento Mori. I still think it's going to be the Kiroshiki Jumpy doll. Let's try that first. Because that was the only remaining thing that we had. Unless it is just Memento Mori, but I don't think so. Since she's been dead this whole time. Boom, bitch! Move out the way! Sigma! Luck!
You're... Akane. Her name is Akane Kiroshiki. I've been looking for her for a very long time.
He walked toward her. Slowly, carefully, almost as if he was afraid of scaring her away, he reached out. She's a hologram. Tenmyoji squeezed his eyes shut.
Akane.
He closed his hand around empty air and let it fall to his side. There was a moment of sad silence, and then she began to speak. I see you finally arrived. I've been waiting for you. Well, I suppose it's slightly inaccurate. What you see now is a holographic message I recorded before you came here. Unfortunately, this means I will not be able to answer your questions, at least not directly. I hope you will understand. Now, where to begin? You probably have a great many questions. What day is it? Where are we? Who is Zero, and what does he have to do with Akane Kiroshiki? But I imagine there is one question that rises above all the others. Why were we brought here? The answer to that is simple. Everything that has happened here is part of our plan. All of this was required for the success of the AB project. I assume you've heard the name by now, at least. In any event, you were all needed in order to execute our plan. The notary game was necessary for the same reason. Your question now, I imagine, is just what is this AB project? The answer to that is also simple. Allow me to explain. We created the AB project for one purpose: to transport the consciousnesses of two people into the past. Those two people are you, Sigma, and you, Phi. What do you mean the past? The moment the words were out of my mouth, I realized no one could answer the question. Not Phi, not Tenmyoji, and certainly not a pre-recorded hologram. Have you figured out what this room is? I assume you saw the Q on the door. It stands for quantum. That makes this the quantum room. It took me a moment to realize she changed subjects without even pausing. There was nothing we could do, of course, but we still felt a twinge of frustration. Take a look at the rear of the room. Do you see that large enclosure? That houses our quantum computer. The systems that control this entire facility run on that machine. That includes the constructs you refer to as Zero Junior, as well as the golems. All of them do their thinking in that box. Isn't that strange, though? It seems contrary to how we perceive the world. The body, the thing that you see and interact with, is somewhere else. But the mind and all its thoughts are in this box. Perhaps it isn't so strange, though. Perhaps humans are the same, with our minds and thoughts existing separate from our bodies. Our core is in our head, of course. We all have individual brains, think individual thoughts, and act according to individual wills. That makes communication difficult, though. So, we're forced to rely on inefficient mediums like language, photographs, nonverbal cues, etc. to transmit information. Each one of us is an individual, and we have no direct connection to anyone else. But, is that really true? In the dimensions we are most familiar with, yes, it is. If we look at things from another higher dimension, however, we may all be connected after all, like the branches of a tree, or a rhizome. Imagine a horizontal cross-section of the root system of a large tree. All you can see are the spots where the roots intersect the plane of your cross-section. In the two dimensions you see, the roots all appear to be individual things with no connection to one another. But this isn't the case. If you expand your view and look at the root system in 3 dimensions instead of only 2, you see the truth. All the roots join together at the trunk. In 2 dimensions, they appear to be separate. But if you look at the roots from a 3rd higher dimension, you see? Things that might appear to be separate from one another in 3 dimensions could be connected to one another if you look at them in 4 dimensions. Doesn't that at least seem like it at least could be a possibility? I believe that is how human consciousness actually works. Well, I'm not the only one, I suppose. Zero and I share that belief.
Morphogenetic field theory.
Tenmyoji mumbled something that sounded like nonsense. I opened my mouth to ask him what it meant, but Akane was already talking again. Now, when I talk about a 4th dimension, I'm referring to the 4th dimension used in Minkowski spacetime. Let's start with a single dimension where all that exists is a point. Connect points to one another and you have a line. In one dimension, the only surface you can create is that, a line. But move to 2 dimensions and create more lines and you can create shapes. These are 2-dimensional surfaces. Move up to 3 dimensions and you can connect these shapes to one another and form 3-dimensional objects. Now you have a 3-dimensional surface which encompasses a volume of space. Connect 3-dimensional objects to one another and you've formed a 4-dimensional object which encompasses a volume of both space and time. It is on that 4th dimensional axis that our minds are connected. If that was true, then what would prevent anyone from sending their consciousness backward or forward in time? That theory is the foundation of the AB project. The A represents after, and the B represents before. It probably sounds silly to you. A ridiculous story made up by a mad old woman. But look what's happened to you. You've seen many different worlds and timelines, haven't you, Sigma? And what about you, Phi? I know you have too. Am I wrong? Tenmyoji should know what I'm talking about as well. I believe you experienced something very similar nearly half a century ago. You sent your consciousness to the past to help save a little girl's life. It was a long time ago, but perhaps you still remember?
Yeah, of course I do. How could I forget? That little girl was you, Akane.
Suddenly, it felt like Fi and I were outsiders, trespassing on something that we had no right to see. Tenmyoji's face was taut with emotion as he looked into Akane's eyes. It seemed almost like she was looking back at him. Now, unfortunately, my time is up. The final stage of the project will begin very soon. I need to go prepare. The next time we meet, I can tell you the rest of the story. So come and find me. I'll be waiting. One last thing. The cat in the box. Is it alive? Or is it dead? Sigma, Phi, you will decide its fate. Goodbye.
Wait! Akane, wait!
Oh, Tenmyoji. I can almost see you. You don't need to worry. Everything's going to be okay. I will see you again one day, I promise. But I'm going to have to ask you to wait a little longer. Wait.
Akane!
And then she was gone. Tenmyoji collapsed to his knees, his back hunched and shaking. I saw tears land on the white-knuckled fist as he pressed against his thighs. I kept quiet. What was there to say? Fi and I looked at one another and nodded silently. With a shaking hand, Tenmyoji pulled a photograph out of his pocket. It was a picture of a girl. After all that we'd been through, her smile was enough to break your heart. I don't know when Junpei was supposed to take that picture on the hill after he got beaten up by those high schoolers. We made our way to the warehouse on floor A and met up with the others. It took only a few minutes to decide to head to the infirmary. As soon as we arrived, we began to treat Alice and Quark for Radical 6. I gave Luna the Axelavir that I'd found in the cube room. She quickly prepared it and... Why don't you guys just duplicate it for everybody? I don't understand. Injected Alice and Quark.
Thank goodness. It will take some time for them to recover completely, but they should be fine. Good.
Oh, finally need the cut. Hold on. Indeed.
Thank you, Luna. And thanks for finding the medicine, you guys. Thank you so much.
Don't sweat it. I don't need to thank us. Tenmyoji said nothing, just walked over to Quark's unconscious body. He took the small boy's hand in his own and held it tight. I could see tears in the corners of his eyes as he turned away from us. Suddenly I remembered. Dio, where had he gone? It didn't take me long to find him. He was sprawled unconscious on the floor beneath the sink. Handcuffs? Oh, we found those in the crew quarters. Before you returned, we went to check on the bomb in room 2 and found them there. Of course, the bomb was indeed turned off. Thank you again for dealing with them. You are, quite literally, lifesavers. You have my eternal gratitude. I coughed awkwardly and looked pointedly around the room. I glanced over at Phi to see if she was doing the same thing. Phi didn't do shit. After that, we headed back to the Floor A warehouse to play the AV game, aside from think about that there was a 4th bomb. Ah, what a goose egg. Specifically, me, Phi, Kay, and Luna. Clover and Tenmyoji decided to remain in the infirmary just in case something happened with Alice, Quark, or Dio. Alice would represent Clover's team. With Quark and Dio sleeping, Kay would represent their team by default, which left me, Phi, and Tenmyoji. You should vote. No, I'll let you handle it. I chose Betray in the last round. You probably don't trust me right now. What? That doesn't matter now. Excuse me. I apologize for interrupting, but I think you should be the one to vote in the next round, Phi. Why? You already have 9 BP. There's no reason for you to choose Betray now. You see? Hey, you're acting like I might actually try and betray her. Not necessarily.
What does it matter what he's suggesting? We're almost there. We just have to play the AB game 3 more times. Then we can all get 9 points. But that means each representative has to choose ally all 3 times.
Okay, I'll vote. You sure you're alright with this, Sigma? Yep, I trust you. I hand her to the star key. Shall we open the doors?
An ambidex gate has been opened. 45 minutes remain until ambidex game polling closes. Oh, right, we have to wait for the deadline.
Oh. Well, we could vote earlier, but then each voter would be stuck inside the AB room for 45 minutes.
Okay, let's go back to the infirmary then.
I agree. Please, lead the way. Luna and Kay set off toward the yellow door. I was about to follow when... Hold on. I just remembered something. What? The AB room on the left. In one of the other histories, she... Oh, yeah. You're right. Akane's body was in there. What does that mean? Why didn't we find her body this time? Maybe because she wasn't murdered. But how? When did history change? Do you remember what Akane said? The cat in the box. Is it alive? Or is it dead? Sigma, Phi, you will decide its fate. The Schrodinger's cat thing. Exactly. I wonder what she means about us deciding its fate. Perhaps she was saying her own fate wasn't decided yet. Huh? The history where she's alive and the history where she's murdered are both real right now. What? No, that's impossible. We've already opened the box. We opened the door to this AB room and there was no body. No, we haven't opened the box. We haven't found a body, but we haven't found her alive yet either. In other words, we haven't actually observed her. The hologram was a recording from before this game started. The next time we meet, I can tell you the rest of the story. So come and find me. I'll be waiting. Where was Akane now? Where was she waiting for us? Or what if she wasn't anywhere now? What if she was waiting for us in another timeline? Or what if she was waiting for us in the past? Was that even possible? If she was, what would that mean? Ooh! A new destination has been added to the flowchart. Okay. Oh. Heyo! Right at the very beginning. AB room pass. Let's fucking go. Fuck off. Just as I was thinking that the controller was fixed. Ah. Ow. Ow, 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 ow. Damn it. Feels like my head's gonna explode. Wait. Where the hell am I? Looks like an elevator, but no. This is one of the AB rooms. Gah! Who the hell are you? And what the hell's an AB room? Damn. I guess you did lose your memory after all. Memory? Memory. Just get these flashes all the time. Let's go. I remember. You're Phi. She grinned. When is this? Check your bracelet. It's a red pair. BP is 3. Mine's the same. Does this mean that we're at the beginning of the game? We've gone back to when we first woke up in the AB room? No, not quite. I think we woke up a little earlier this time. How do you know? Push the buttons on the side of your bracelet. 2 hours, 15 minutes. We didn't wake up this long before the primary doors opened last time. I think we're about an hour early. Wait a minute. If you're right, yeah, Akane might still be alive. We go back before Dio killed her, I think. Then Right, we're here for one reason. To stop her from getting killed. Exactly. Let's move. We need to get out of here fast. Don't need to tell me twice. Let's go. Do I need to solve this room again? No, I should have the safe code already, right? Just in my arch. Pass elevator. Moon, moon, moon. You need to remember the password for the safe. We figured it out last time. Yeah, I got it. Moon, moon, moon. I wonder if there's an achievement for just doing it again. There, it's open. Good work. Hurry and grab the cracker. Cracker? Ah, damn, I meant key. How the hell? Just shut up and do it. You're a strange one, Vi. It's here, right? Alright, let's just put the key in here. For God's sake, just do it already! No need to yell. Alright. Good. Looks like that worked. Ready, Fi? What do you think? I know. I don't need to ask every time, right? Then why the hell are you asking? Hurry up and... Right. I'm going. 10, 9, 8, 1. Done. I don't know why Sigma's fucking around. Hey, you pushed the button. Bite me. You were taking too long. We're on the schedule here. Ugh. Fi and I climbed up out of the hatch and out onto the top of the AB room. It took us only a moment to spot them. Akane! Behind her was Dio. He was moving quickly and quietly, a knife glinting in his right hand. Shit! There was no time to yell to her. I scrambled down from the top of the AB room. Fi wasn't following me. When I looked back, she was still standing on the roof. Fi! What the hell are you doing? Get down here and... Before I could finish, she moved. She ran across the roof, launched herself into the air. Boom! What the... He's fine. Just unconscious. I bent down and held my fingers in front of his mouth. He was still breathing. I don't think he saw me. He probably has no idea what happened to him. Guy went down like a sack of potatoes. He had it coming. I heard footsteps come to a stop right in front of us. I looked up. So, you came. I've been waiting for you. You're here to hear the rest, right? Wait. Just wait a minute. What the hell is your deal? How can you be so calm? If we hadn't shown up just now, you'd have been stabbed in the heart by this young man and died, yes. Although, that reminds me, I haven't thanked you yet. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate you saving me. What? Hold on. How do you know about being stabbed by Dio? Are you an Esper too? Yes. Indeed I am. I am able to jump through time just like you. Then what the hell were you thinking? If you knew he was going to stab you, why were you going to let him do it? Because I had to. You what? Think back. Why are you here? If I hadn't been killed by Dio, no one else would have been murdered. Consequently, your own abilities would never have manifested. I did explain, didn't I? The purpose of the AB project was to send the two of you to the past, or your minds at least. In order for that to happen, some death was necessary. When a human brain is faced with danger, its processing speed increases. Information is processed more quickly, and time almost seems to slow. A few seconds can feel like an eternity. Unfortunately, that in itself isn't enough to send oneself through time. The amplitude of the consciousness is simply too small. In order to increase the amplitude, we need to slow down the brain before the increase happens. You need to create the time leap machine using the fucking phone wave. It's a little like a slingshot. You pull back the rubber band and then let go. The potential energy you stored in the band is released and converted into kinetic energy, which Vince then absorbs. That's what fires the bullet out of the slingshot. Now, while a slingshot can only fire in one direction, your mind isn't simply limited. Similarly limited. When the bullet of your consciousness is fired from the slingshot of your brain, it travels past the three-dimensional world and into the fourth-dimensional one. From that perspective, time is no longer fixed. In other words, you can travel to the future, the past, wherever you like. Your consciousness has been released from the three-dimensional cage. In order for that to happen, I had to infect you with Radical 6. Whoa, what? We're infected with Radical 6? Yes. Don't you remember, Sigma? Luna should have told you something in another timeline.
Are you sure? Infecting all these people with such a horrible disease.
Every single one of you has been infected. Well, apart from Luna, of course. Unfortunately, it was necessary. We needed to slow your minds in order to store up your potential energy. Then we provided a dire situation that would accelerate your processing speed. The result is what you are now experiencing. Your consciousness now occupies four-dimensional space-time. Even that, however, wasn't enough. You had the ability to travel, but your memories could easily be lost during the trip. If the project was to succeed, you had to be able to retain everything you learned in each reality. That was the reason you were forced to jump so many times. With each jump, your ability to remember improved. Eventually, you would be able to retain everything. That is why we made you play the AB game. That was why you had to select different chromatic doors. By forcing specific choices, we could cause you to make more jumps. I get it. I think I finally understand. Well, okay, there are a lot of things I don't understand, but all of what you've told me makes sense. You did all of this so Phi and I could jump through four-dimensional space with our memories intact. Right? Yes. But why did you need us to do that? People have died for this. I mean, let's count how many different ways people have died. Murder, antimatter explosion, suicide. I've died. So has Phi. So have you. So why would you do all this? What does it matter that Phi and I jumped through time? Haven't I told you? Death was unavoidable. You were all destined to die. Sacrifices had to be made for the sake of the project. I already know all that. What I'm asking you is why? What is so goddamn important that it's worth all this? Ah. I'm sure you'll figure it out eventually. What? Just when is eventually? In a future not very far from now. Bullshit! That's not good enough. Why can't you tell us now? Instead of answering, Akane knelt down to Dio and picked his knife up off the floor. I'm going to keep this with me. Don't change the subject, but it's almost time. What are you talking about? We've got plenty of time. No. In a few moments you'll return to the original timeline. What? This is the way it has to be. Don't fight it. Lagomorph.
Yes?
Lagomorph. You call him Zero Jr. His official designation is Lagomorph. Lagomorph, this is an order. Unlock my bracelet.
Compliance.
Now everything is in place. I have put the bracelet onto Dio. All we have to do is place his body in the 5th AB room, the second one from the right. That's the one with Cork in, right? Correct. I will move him. I will also put your bodies back in the 3rd AB room. Once that's done, I will reset its puzzle to an unsolved state. Why do you need to do all that? To recreate the history that you remember. Your consciousness is about to leave your body and return to the future. Your body will be emptied, and your other consciousness will jump back in. If your bodies aren't back in the third AB room by then, it would be bad. So you're saying that some version of us is going to wake up in that room and repeat the same history again? Well, I guess this could actually be your second or third time. You are exactly correct. I'm sorry that their voices are similar, but I'm not really sure how to do an old lady voice, which is I would consider to be different from my Angela DeSoto voice that I'm doing for 5, but there's some crossover there. I'm not like an actually good voice actor, so you gotta bear with me there. I'm sorry if it's a little confusing. Lastly, I'm going to leave this with you. She paused and pulled something out of her pocket. It was a small key attached to a string. I'll tie it to your ankle so you won't lose it, alright, Sigma? What's it say on there? Tu fui ego eris. Oh, from the garden. It's Latin. It means, what you are, I was. What I am, you will be. Yes. What am I supposed to do with it? It will help you meet someone who's very important. What? Go. Return to the future. You won't be alone. I will be at your side, watching over you. Now hurry. Wait, I still... Boom. So I need a new destination been added to the flowchart. Back down here.
Oh, looks like you're awake.
Is this the infirmary? Why are we here?
Do you know what happened at the AB gate?
Kay and I went back into the infirmary, but...
We waited and waited, but the two of you never returned.
So we went to the warehouse to check on you.
We found you passed out on the AB We found you passed out in front of the AB rooms.
Kay and I hurried back here with you.
I looked over at Fi and met her eyes. Do you remember what happened just now? You mean what happened a long time ago? Yeah, you got him pretty good, huh? Yeah, I remember all right.
Hey, what are you guys talking about?
Quark!
What am I, chopped liver?
Alice! Back among the conscious and not psychotic, huh?
Yeah, thanks. Grandpa told me what you did. Thanks for finding the medicine for us.
No problem, all in a day's work. Although, I wouldn't mind a little swimsuit action. Really grabbing at straws here, aren't you? Hey, I wasn't talking to Quark. That was an offer for Alice. Not really my point.
Whatever, forget about that. Now that you guys are awake, all we gotta do is open the number 9 door.
Huh? What are you talking about?
Look at your bracelet.
It says 10. I have 10 BP. I've got 15 BP? That means I got 6 more points while I was out. But how?
You've been asleep for more than 2 hours. We've played the AB game 3 times.
3 times?
Ah, of course the color and group assignments were shuffled around each time. But no matter who voted, everyone chose ally.
Boom. Cooperation.
And now all of us have enough to leave.
9, 9, 14, 13, 13, 9, 14. That's right, bitch! I was stunned. How had everyone cooperated long enough to raise all our BP past 9? Was it because Akane hadn't been killed? Without a death to start things off, maybe we'd been less suspicious of one another. Or could the bombs have had something to do with it? We'd all joined forces against Dio, and Fi and I had been able to disarm all of them. All of us had banded together against a common enemy and overcome a tremendous threat. Perhaps that had strengthened our bond. Which, I had to admit, was to be somewhat ironic. After all, Dio had planted the bombs that forced us all to work together against him. This must have been what Akane was talking about. Haven't I told you? Death was unavoidable. sacrifices had to be made for the sake of the project.
Come on, let's go! Let's open the door and get out of here!
Wait, what about him? After some discussion, we decided to leave Dio behind. Alice was the only holdout. She complained about wanting to take him back to her superiors, but after I mentioned they'd come to investigate after we escaped and deal with Dio then, she reluctantly complied.
Alright, let's get going!
I like that the antechamber to the infirmary is the same size as the infirmary on the map. That's very silly. Everybody ready? I'm gonna open it.
Yes, just get on with it.
Everyone else swallowed and nodded. I grabbed the lever and pulled it down.
The number 9 door has been opened. It will remain open for 9 seconds.
Alright, everybody, let's move! I didn't need to tell them twice. The room inside was clearly a loading elevator. It looked sort of like a large plate on top of a huge pedestal. We ran to the center of the plate and turned around. The number 9 door stood wide open.
2, 1, 0. The number 9 door is closing. The number 9 door has closed. This ends the nonary game. Thank you for your participation. As the game is over, all doors other than the number 9 door have been unlocked.
Finally, seeing that there is indeed at least one escape, not 0 escape. Come on, Dad, just one escape? Fine, you can have just one.
Looks like we did it!
Da! We should keep moving.
Beyond the door was a wide hallway that ended in a very solid wall. To the left, we found a very familiar looking door. We pushed it open and went in. Pressure exchange chamber. Yeah, the PEC. The Gregory PEC. Pressure exchange chamber.
You know what this place is?
Yeah, sort of. This whole facility is pressurized, apparently. I think the idea is to keep the air outside and consequently the virus from getting inside. That means that if we want to go out, we have to decompress so we can match the outside air pressure. This room here is where you prepare for going into the actual pressure exchange room. You see all those suits along the wall? I figure we need to put those on and head to the decompression room downstairs.
Whoa, hold on a minute. You're saying the air outside is full of that horrible virus?
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Of course, according to Akane, we were already infected with Radical 6, so the whole room seemed a little pointless.
Why? How did all this happen? Did they? No, that's not possible.
We've come this far, we can't turn back now. Let's go outside. There's no way to know what's really going on until we do.
All right.
No one else objected. Fuck off. We all donned the protective suits and headed downstairs to the decompression room. I'm not sure if it's the cord or the controller that's fucky now. I'm assuming it's the cord. So due to the cord. As soon as we were all inside, the process began. Is Kay wearing a suit on top of a suit? Through my helmet, I could hear the soft hiss of air being sucked out of the room. We stood there for several minutes, waiting for the process to finish. At last it did, and we heard the door begin to open. Beyond it was another decompression chamber. We repeated the process 2 more times before we reached the final door and opened it. The dead, bleak landscape wasn't a surprise for me. I'd seen it before in another timeline. The others hadn't, however, and although I couldn't see their faces through the visors of their helmets, I heard more than a few gasps over the radio. For a few long moments, we just stood there astonished.
Where the hell are we? The desert, I guess? I figured that out. I mean, which one?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless, I'm having so many fucking technical issues today. Please hold. Yeah, I understand. Beep, beep. Fuck off. We were charging all night, but for some reason that's not fucking good enough. Go fuck yourself. Piece of shit. God bless. Just everything today is saying, hey, fuck you. I don't care about you at all. Who are you anyway? Now I've changed headphones, in addition to not using my controller anymore. Gotta move the microphone back. Okay. Wired headphones.
I figured that out. I mean, which one? I don't know, but I think I know what day it is. Look at the moon. It's red, right? That means today's a total lunar eclipse. So? Remember the astronomy magazine in the lounge? Well, the next eclipse like this was going to be on December 31st, 2028. So, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. Are you suggesting we were sleeping for a week after we were abducted? I think so.
Wherever we were must have been far away from any city. The air was clearer than I'd ever seen it. And the stars, the sky was so full of them. More stars than I'd ever seen in my life. I could even spot the hazy arm of the Milky Way. But the most striking feature was the moon. It was blood red and massive, much bigger, in fact, than I remembered it being. Then, as I watched, a black spot began to move across its surface. It was hard to see details, but it looked circular. The spot continued to move across the moon, heading for the right edge. What's that?
The moon? Well, the moon's shadow, really.
The moon's shadow? I frowned. That didn't make any sense.
Zero told me to stay quiet. I think he was worried I'd spill the beans on his operation. He said if I didn't toe the line, he wouldn't just kill me, he'd kill Quark too. And I agreed like an idiot and brought Quark with me. Just so I could see her. Such an idiot. So that being the case, might as well start with this. I meant what I said before. That up there is the moon's shadow.
What the hell are you saying?
Think about it. If that's the moon's shadow, then what's it falling on?
That's Earth?
Yeah. It's not the red moon you get from a lunar eclipse. Then again, this isn't a lunar eclipse, it's a solar eclipse. Anybody in the black spot down there is looking up at the moon covering the sun.
What? No way. If that's the Earth, then where the hell are we?
The moon, of course. This is the lunar surface. We were just inside a moon base. No way! No, you've got to be lying. How do you expect us to believe that? This can't be the moon. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. Besides, if this was the moon, how do you explain the gravity? The moon only has 1/6 of the Earth's gravity. So what's this?
She picked up a rock and dropped it.
See? That looked perfectly normal. It looked that way.
Luna?
You were right about the gravity in a way. I was one of the people who knew this wasn't Earth. Well, I suppose I'm not people, if we're being honest, but...
Excuse me, what?
Please, just listen. Alice, you were infected with Radical 6. Then we gave you the X-Livier, which cured you. The Radical 6 isn't completely gone, though. Some of its symptoms stuck around for a little while.
What symptoms?
Well... Radical 6 can slow down your brain's processing speed by the root of 1/6. It can take a while for your brain to get back up to speed. Every one of us has been infected. In other words, all of our brains have been processing information at a much lower speed. If you evaluated the root of 1/6, you'd get the number close to 0.0408. That means our brains are running at something slightly less than half speed. As you said before, the moon's gravity is about 1/6 that of Earth's. The time that it takes for an object to fall is inversely proportional to the square root of the gravitational acceleration. Since the gravity is lower on the moon, it means that all the time increases. I guess that's a little technical. Let me give you an example. Say you drop an apple from a height of 4.9 meters. It will take approximately 1 second to hit the ground. On the moon, however, that time would be 1 second times the root of 6, which would approximately be 2.45 seconds. I use 4.9 meters because it matches up with the acceleration of gravity nicely, but it could be anything. The gravity constant is, well, a constant. You could drop something from 10 centimeters or 10 meters and it would be the same. Does that make sense? So, now that we've established that on the moon, things fall root 6 times slower than they do on the Earth, that being the case, what would happen if someone's brain slowed down by root 1/6? To them, 2.45 seconds would feel like 1 second, 4.9 seconds would feel like 2. But it's not hypothetical. That's what's been happening to every one of us. Wait, you're saying that's the reason we didn't notice the weak gravity? Are you sure you didn't notice anything? Think back. Huh? You and Sigma and Phi said something about it in the lounge. About how you felt weird.
It's kind of like my body isn't really mine. I'm sort of floating. Like that? It seemed insane, but what Luna said made sense. In fact, it explained Phi's apparent superhuman strength quite well. Boom! Wait, this is crazy. That can't possibly be Earth out there. Look at it. I've seen photos of Earth, and it's blue and green and beautiful. That thing is just red.
Before we get into that, I should probably tell you something. This isn't New Year's Eve in 2028. Today is January 27th.
In 29?
No.
Don't tell me. 30?
Still no.
Then just what year is this?
It's 74. 2074.
No. That's insane. That would mean we were abducted more than 45 years ago?
I don't blame you if you don't believe me, but it's the truth.
How can you be so sure?
It's not that hard. Quark and I left Earth on January 23rd, 2074. Solar eclipses are easy to predict. We've known there would be one on the 27th for a long time. That's just science. Nobody can change that.
But why is the Earth red?
That's a long story. About 45 years ago, on April 13th, 2029, there were 18 annihilation reactors operating in various parts of the world. On the 13th, all 18 of them went up, all at the same time. The explosion was about 180,000 times as powerful as the atom bomb they dropped on Hiroshima.
What? Why?
I suppose it started a few months before that. The government had a test site for a future Mars mission out in the middle of Nevada. On December 31st, 2028, there was an accident. Well, accident doesn't quite convey the right sense of the thing. The point is, Radical 6 claimed its first victims there, then escaped. Didn't take long for it to spread to the rest of the world. Like Luna explained, the virus slows your brain down, but eventually it also makes you kill yourself. Pretty soon the bodies started to pile up. Some people would take a dive off a building or shoot themselves in the head. You know, the classics. But for some of it was poison or fire, asphyxiation or noose. Plenty of people jumped in front of trains or cars. One pilot on a passenger airplane dove his plane into the ground. Most forms of transportation ground to a halt pretty fast. That meant food couldn't get distributed, or thousands of people who weren't even infected died from starvation. Everywhere you could see there were just piles of corpses, covered in flies and rats and crows. I don't know what hell's like, but I imagine it's a lot like that. After a while, people who'd managed to avoid getting infected started trying to get in touch with one another. They got a hold of some radios and organized a couple meetings. There was only one thing to discuss, of course. How could they get rid of Radical 6? The answer they decided was purification. They figured they could just roast the surface of the Earth and that'd kill the virus off for good. On April 13th in 2029, they put their plan into effect. That plan was to detonate all 18 annihilation reactors. Now, the truth is that what's happened mostly is rumor. Nobody really knows what happened. But I've got my own theories. I think that the bombers they already had infected, and when they died, they took billions with them. The ultimate if I die you're coming with me gesture, I suppose. I bet you money they'd all lost it long before they got the reactors. Killing most of the world, no matter how big things had gotten, was not a sane plan. Even if it wasn't directly responsible, Radical 6 killed most of the people on Earth. Anyway, why it happened isn't that important. Point is, it happened. You ever heard of nuclear winter? Well, that's basically what we got. The explosion threw a ton of crap up into the stratosphere, where it joined up with smoke and ash from all the fires. It blotted out the sun for 7 years. Plants withered and animals died by the millions. The few humans who were left banded together to survive. They were rough times. Eventually they were over, though. The sky cleared and the sun came back. Plants started blooming again and the animals that hadn't died out completely began to reappear. Things weren't quite back to normal, though. It's been 45 years now and there's still quite a bit of dust and ash in the air. That's what you're seeing. You know why a sunset's red? Well, this is the same thing. Blue and green light have short wavelengths and they scatter when they turn debris into the air. Red light, on the other hand, has longer wavelength, which means it's got a lot farther from the air's dirty. So there you are. The Earth looks red because that's the only color of light that can make it through this atmosphere.
Well, fuck Tenmyoji voice, dude. A little lightheaded. Excuse me for just a second. I was speechless. What could I possibly say? There was no reason for Tenmyoji to lie to us. So we were standing on the moon, looking at the Earth. It was 2074. But why? Why were we there? Why were we then? I was so lost in thought I barely noticed Phi's approach. Hey, Sigma. I think I figured something out. A window appeared in the inside of my helmet with Whisper in the corner. She seemed to be using a circuit only we could hear. Really? Fuck off. Yeah? What is it? I figured out why there's an extra E. An extra E in the 9th lion? Oh, you mean the graffiti? Yeah, on the one on floor B. I think it's an anagram, just like on floor A. What's Anna saying this time? God damn it, Sigma. Knock it off. Memento mori if the 9th lion ate the sun. If you rearrange the letters, you get the man on the moon rules the infinite time. See? You need 6 E's to do that. So they stuck an extra one in 9th. The man on the moon rules the infinite time. I think it's a message for us from Zero Senior and Akane. Remember what she was telling us? We created the AB project for one purpose. To transport the consciousnesses of 2 people into the past. Those 2 people are you, Sigma, and you, Phi. So, what are you getting at? My god, you're slow. You don't get it? They're saying we rule the infinite time. Infinite time. They weren't just talking about having us jump a couple hours. I think they're planning on sending us back. Way back. Wait a minute. Are you saying they think that they're going to send us back 45 years? Yeah, I'd bet on it. So the ultimate purpose of the AB project is to send us back in time to that catastrophe Tenmyoji was talking about? I think so. That doesn't make sense, though. I mean, we came from that same time period. Before it, actually. So why bring us here and then send us back? Well, Akane should be able to tell us the rest. Let's go and pay her a visit. Do you know where she is? I've got an idea. Come on, think. Remember what she said when she gave you the key. Tut fui ergo eris. The grave! The one in the garden! Well, come on, what are you waiting for? Let's go. We turned and ran back to the pressure exchange chamber, the others following close behind.
What are you doing? Did you forget something?
We're gonna have to talk with somebody.
Who?
You really need me to spell it out? The person behind all this.
You mean Akane?
What?
I'll take that as a yes. Let me accompany you then.
Wait, why do you know about Akane?
I'll tell you when we get there. Now, if you please.
I'm coming with you. You folks just said the magic word.
I'm going too then. So am I. Hey, is this Akane you're talking about?
Yeah, you know her real well.
Wait, you're not... You're serious? What the hell's going on?
Ah, shut up! Just shut up. Come if you want to. We don't need to do roll call. Once we get there, Akane can explain everything. With that, we headed back through the airlock. Can they just casually reopen the number 9 door from this side? Maybe Luna can. That might check out. God damn, these headphones are loud. There we go.
Ah, clever. The number 9 door on floor A is shut forever once the game ends, assuming Zero Jr. is telling the truth, of course. But the door on floor B...
Yeah, I thought we might be able to take the lift to it, and looks like I was right.
Any idea where Akane might be?
Yeah, the grave.
You mean the grave in the garden?
Yeah, don't worry. I don't think she's buried there or anything. Chances are she's alive. Just in the grave. Anyway, let's move. To the garden.
Is Akane really under here?
I think so.
What should we do? Are we gonna dig her out?
No, I don't think we'll have to do anything like that. You see the keyhole in the grave? If I just insert this here, I pulled the key off my ankle and fitted it into the hole. I twisted it to the right until I heard something unlock. With a quiet grinding, the grave began to shift.
What is this? It doesn't look like a coffin.
Yeah, it's a treatment pod.
Oh my god. It is, isn't it?
The glass in the cupboard frosted over, making it opaque. We couldn't see who or what was in it. Let's see what's inside. She grabbed a hold of the lever on the side of the pod. No good. I think it's locked. What?
Treatment Pod TP00 Stage 1 defrosting complete. Stage 2 will be complete in 10 minutes. Once Stage 2 is complete, the lock will automatically disengage.
Right, cold sleep.
What?
These pods can put people into cold sleep. It uses something called CAS to freeze human bodies without destroying their cells.
So Miss Akane's like an ice cube?
I think so.
Then we've got to wait till she melts?
Yeah. So how about you tell us your story while we wait, Kay? Specifically, why do you know Akane?
I remembered.
What do you remember?
Everything. I was born and raised in this facility. It's called Rhizome 9. A rhizome is an underground plant stem that spreads by sending out roots. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? This facility is a little like a rhizome. Supposedly, that's why they call these installations that. The number comes from the facility's number. There are 54 rhizomes on the moon, and this is the 9th one. Well, I suppose the other ones don't really matter to you, do they? In any event, I grew up here with Akane and Zero Senior. I watched them create the AB project.
The AB project.
Yes, its purpose is to send Phi and Sigma, or their consciousnesses at least, to the past.
Back 45 years, right?
Yes.
So you want us to change history, huh? Go back and keep Radical 6 from getting out and stop the reactors from exploding. That's our mission?
Well, not exactly.
What do you mean?
It's true that the ultimate goal of the project is to keep Radical 6 from spreading to the general population. But even if you do make it back, you won't be able to do much. By now, it's already too late.
Too late? What do you mean?
Let me begin at the beginning. You might be thinking that Zero Senior and Akane were the ones who created all this, but that's not entirely correct. They only followed the histories they'd already seen. It was the only choice they had. Nothing less than the future of mankind is at stake. We need the two of you to jump through the timelines while maintaining your memories. That is why you needed to play the AB game and why the chromatic doors were necessary. By forcing multiple options, you could make numerous jumps. We speculated that jumping more would strengthen your memories. The puzzles were also there for a purpose. Some theories hold that the moment of insight when you solve a puzzle strengthens your connection with the fourth dimension. That was the reason for the puzzles. Your infection with Radical 6 was also a vital part of our plan. By slowing down your brain's processing speed, we can store your potential. With that energy stored up, we just had to provide a life-or-death situation to launch your consciousnesses into the fourth dimension. Like a bullet from a slingshot.
Wait, hold on just a minute here. You keep talking about Sigma and Phi, but what about the rest of us? Why did you bring us here?
That's simple. In earlier histories, you were all here in Rhizome 9. We needed you here to accurately replicate those histories. Although, I suppose that's probably not a good enough explanation for you. In a sense, though, it is the truth. Our primary goal was to replicate history. The rest is... Yes, I suppose I should explain. Very well. I will try and do so in a way you can understand. First, Alice and Clover. They were abducted 45 years and 1 month ago, on December 22nd, 2028. The location is Earth, of course. More specifically, Los Angeles, California. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
After being kidnapped, your bodies were sent to a facility under Akane's direction. You were placed in treatment pods and immediately put into cold sleep. 4 months later, you arrived at this facility. The date you finally arrived was April 14th, 2029. Your trip from Earth to this facility was aboard a spaceship powered by an annihilation engine. Following your arrival, your pods were placed in long-term storage. Does that make sense?
Are you telling me we were sleeping in those pods here for 45 years?
Yes. In preparation for this day.
But why? What did you need us for?
You are an Esper, aren't you, Clover? I mean, you are able to access the fourth dimension. Am I wrong?
Did Akane tell you?
In a manner of speaking. As I've already explained, the purpose of this project is to send Sigma and Phi's consciousnesses to the past. Espers are able to sort of resonate with one another, which can amplify their power. You understand? This is why we brought you here, Clover.
What about me?
We needed your help, Alice, to deactivate Dio's bombs.
Huh? But I didn't do anything.
But you did. In another history. You were able to perform prime decomposition on the 25-digit integer that Dio left behind. Only you could do that sort of thing. Because of your feat of mathematics, we were able to determine that Dio had planted the bombs. Then we were able to question him and get the password for the number 3 one. Finally, we used that information to stop the detonation in this timeline. Without your help, Alice, we would have been reduced to nothing more than so much as space dust. This history exists because of your presence. Now let me explain why we needed Tenmyoji and Quark. Tenmyoji is simple. We needed you for the same reason we needed Clover. You are able to access the 4th dimension. Almost half a century ago, you used that ability to save a young girl, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
We needed you here to resonate with Sigma and Phi, so we brought you here. All it took was a messenger.
Do you want to see Akane? If you do, come with me. I was a fool and fell for it.
And you brought Quark with you. In fact, you insisted that he come.
Yeah, I know. I guess you were worried about leaving me alone, huh? He kept saying he couldn't run off to the moon and leave me behind.
I'm sorry, Quark. If I hadn't been so stupid and selfish, none of this would have happened to you. I never thought this would happen. Can you ever forgive me?
Oh, don't worry about it. I mean, I agreed to come with you. I thought the moon would be way more interesting than boring old Earth. What kid would turn that down?
We didn't see the messenger after we got on the ship. It was on autopilot. As soon as we got in, it headed straight for the moon. During the trip, Zero told me to keep quiet once we got here. I don't remember anything after that we landed.
Then there was a bunch of that white smoke and we passed out. And when I woke up, I was in the AB room.
Now, Dio. His real name is Left, and he's the leader of a terrorist organization called the Myrmidons. He was ordered to come here. The Myrmidons are under the control of an organization called Free the Soul, which is in turn controlled by a man known as Brother. It was Brother who orchestrated the release of Radical 6 into the general population 45 years ago. Do you remember what Fire mentioned earlier? The ultimate purpose of the AB project is to change history and keep Radical 6 from being released. If we succeeded, that would be bad for Brother and his organization. Our success would prevent them from creating the ideal world they're working toward. That is why Brother sent Left, his trusted lieutenant, to the facility. They needed to stop the AB project. So, Dio was given 2 tasks. The first was to eliminate Akane, the architect of the AB project. The second was to join the AB game and win it. If Dio won the game, the AB project would not be completed, at least not in that timeline. In other words, in that world, the project would have been stopped. If things didn't go as planned, Dio was given a contingency plan. If you cannot murder Akane and win the game, destroy Rhizome 9. Hence the bombs.
Can I ask you something?
Perhaps.
How did Brother know about the AB project?
He was also an Esper. We can set Brother aside for now, though. May I proceed?
No one objected. We were all curious.
Excellent. That explains everyone save 2. Luna and myself. Sigma and Phi already know the truth about Luna. I don't believe I should reveal any more, however. I think it would be more appropriate if you could ask Luna yourselves at a later time. Would that be alright with you? Luna?
That's okay.
As for me, as I said before, I was born and raised here. The rest of you were brought to this facility, but I've never left. That makes me someone close to Zero Senior and Akane.
Hey, I've been wondering, who is Zero Senior?
You've already met him, Sigma. In another timeline.
Yeah. Well, I saw a hologram. I still don't know who he is.
Stage 2 is complete. TP-00 unlocking.
It looks like it's finished. Shall we open the pod?
Yeah, let's do it. All of us gathered around the pod. The glass was still covered with frost, hiding the contents. Okay, let's get started then. Ready? Phi laid her hand on the lever and looked around at us. I swallowed. Yeah, anytime. Alright, here we go. 3, 2, 1. What? Suddenly, my head was full of memories from other timelines. I'd seen something like this before. The warehouse of floor B, in front of the white door. Kay was lying in front of me. I grabbed his mask and saw... My own face. I'd never figured out who he really was. Why was there a man with my face underneath Kay's armor? It didn't make any sense. After I'd seen him, I was injected with tubocurarine and that was the end of that. But, wait. If the person in the pod was the same person I'd seen on the floor of the warehouse, who was wearing Kay's armor?
You finally noticed. Didn't I tell you? You won't be alone. I will be at your side, watching over you.
No. Oh my god, you're...
Yes, I am.
Don't need that cup anymore. Akane Kirishiki.
It's you! June, I mean, Akane, but you're old.
Yes, that's correct. I haven't spoken to you in a very long time, Clover. Or you, Junpei.
Junpei?
Akane! Long time no see.
I could barely hear what they were saying. My mind was still reeling. It felt like all the air had been knocked out of me, and it was all I could do not collapse right then and there. When? How long? Do you remember when the two of you saved me in the warehouse? Sorry, I don't know how long the mouse was there. Once you saved me, you went back to your future. Well, your minds did, at least. I carried your bodies to the 3rd AB room and then took Dio's to the 5th. After that, I went into the 1st room and borrowed Kay's armor. So by the time you and Clover came out... you'd already... Yes. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Dio killed you. And then Luna took your body to the 6th room. You couldn't have been in Kay's armor. No, it was me. In this timeline, at least. In this one, I wasn't murdered by Dio. You two saved me. It's just like Schrodinger's cat. Your actions in the future decided who would be inside the armor in the past. What? No, that's nuts. Alright, what about the other history? The one where you weren't saved. What happens then? Who's wearing that armor? That's quite simple. The man in front of you. Him? That's correct. Whenever I'm not in that armor, he is. What about the memory loss? For my part, I confess that I lied. He, on the other hand, was telling the truth. Large doses of soaperiol can cause memory loss. I gave him a rather large dose.
So, who is he?
You've never seen him before.
No.
What about the rest of you?
I have no idea who he is.
I've never seen him before.
Me either.
Total stranger. Hey, come on. What are you guys saying? Right here? Same face?
Are you alright, Mr. Sigma? Did you hit your head or something?
Huh? What? It didn't make any sense. Why didn't they recognize me? Sigma, your consciousness can jump through time. You can inhabit your body in the past, or in the future. What does that mean? Don't you get it? You jumped to the future. From 45 years ago. I looked around frantically. A pond! I ran to it and threw myself down on my knees. Crawling on all fours, I approached the edge. My heart was hammering inside my chest. A cold sweat trickled down my spine. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down, damn it. I struggled to take deep breaths. Then slowly, I peered into the pond looking for my reflection. What? No, this can't be real. This face. It's your face, Dr. Sigma Klein. Although, to the you that's behind it now, it's your face 45 years from now. Zero, the mastermind of the AB project, is you. What? No, that's not possible. That's bullshit. No, it's the truth. Fighting it isn't going to do you any good. Please, Doctor. I'm not a doctor. You will be. A pioneer in the field of genetic engineering. You're lying. No, I'm not. You created him. Well, I suppose I should say you were going to create him. Create? His name is Kyle Klein. Your clone. That is why he looks just like the younger version of yourself. 23 years ago, in the biolab here on Rhizome 9, you created Kyle. Well, I suppose for you, that's still in the future. When I said I was born and raised here, I was still pretending to be him. The gravity here is only 1/6 of Earth's. If nothing was done, the reduced gravity would cause his bones to be weaker than normal human ones. But you prepared for that. You gave him that armor. Ever since he was born, he's lived inside of it. It kept his muscles and bones strong. He wasn't forced into it for the notary game. He's been wearing it every day, all his life. But why would future me create a clone? He was to be your spare. If something happened to you before the project began, he would take your place. I mentioned before that the AB projects A and B stood for after and before. That isn't all they mean, though. The A also means anima, and B means body. Anima is another word for the soul, or the consciousness. Body is, well, exactly what it says on the tin. The past consciousness would go into the future body, and the future consciousness would go to the past body. They switch. That was the chief goal of this project. Wait, so the future person goes into the past person? Sigma, do you remember the note you found in the garden?
You mean this, right?
Yes. Ah, of course, it was you who investigated the garden in this timeline.
Yeah.
Sigma, take a good look at this. It's an illustration of the time jumps your consciousness is making. A is where everything began. December 25th, 2028. You inhaled the white smoke in your car and lost consciousness. From there, you jumped to B. January 25th, 2074. You woke up in one of the AB rooms on Rhizome 9. You are in your own body, but it is 67 years old. Your consciousness has jumped 45 years into the future. I believe that may explain why you didn't notice the reduced lunar gravity. The body you woke up in is much older. Normally, you would have noticed that your muscles were much weaker. In this case, however, the lower gravity balanced that out. Moving on, if you continue along this line, what happens next? You reach C, which is January 27th, 2074. That is today. Wow. Wait, what do you mean? Are you saying it's been 2 days since we woke up? 36 hours to be exact. Have you already forgotten? You were all infected with Radical 6. The virus slowed your brain down. So yes, 36 hours of real time have passed. But to you, it only seems like 14 hours and 40 minutes. Now comes the important part. After this, your consciousness will return to the past. It will re-emerge at point D. April 13th, 2029. You will return to your younger body.
But that's the same day as the reactor explosions!
Yes. That is why I said it will be too late. You will return to the past, but the events you would want to prevent will already have happened. The story does not end there, however. The line continues. After reaching point D, you will eventually return to B. But this time you won't be jumping through time, or at least not at a rate faster than normal. Your consciousness will spend 45 years inhabiting the same body, until you reach point B. Do you remember when B is, Sigma? January 25th, 2074. According to what you just told us, it's 36 hours ago. Correct. That was when the consciousness of the 22-year-old Sigma jumped into the body of 67-year-old Sigma. So, where did the older version of you go when you took his body? Point A. December 25th, 2028, the day all this started. Yes. His consciousness will go back in time 45 years. For a period of time, he will inhabit your younger body. While your younger consciousness is elsewhere, he will be you in the past. But once that body reaches point D, my 22-year-old consciousness will come back to point C. That's correct. When that happens, the older version of you will be ejected from your younger body and return to your body at C. So it's rotating? Rotating. I suppose you could call it, you could put it that way. But I look at this illustration closely. What if you take all these lines and untangle them? You get one single line. It may look complicated, but in truth it's a single straight path, with one exception. This line here at point E, right? Exactly. Point E is December 31st, 2028, the day of the total eclipse. The day Radical 6 got out of the test facility. Yes, by now you've likely figured it out on your own. The purpose of the AB project was to get the consciousness of the 67-year-old Sigma from point B to point A. If we can do that, we can change what happened 45 years ago. So the old version of me will keep Radical 6 from getting out, by jumping into my 22-year-old body on New Year's Eve 2028. Yes, that was why this line could not be interrupted. In order for the 67-year-old version of you to reach point B, we first have to go through point D. In order to get to point D, we must put a jump from point C, and if for point C to happen, we have to recreate everything that happened in this facility. That is why we have faithfully retraced history up to this point, so that we might save humankind from destruction, and undo the horrors of the last 45 years. My. Tell me one thing. What is it? You said that point C is January 27th, 2074, which is today. There's going to be a jump, and I'll jump to April 13th, 2029. Yes, that's right. But look, I'm still old. When is this jump supposed to happen? Very soon. Soon? Yes. And what's going to trigger it? We need potential energy stored to send your consciousness into the fourth dimension. Fortunately, we now have plenty of that. Thanks, ironically, to Radical 6. All that remains is to launch your consciousness like a bullet from a slingshot. And how do you propose we do that? Didn't I tell you? A crisis. A moment balanced between life and death. That can jumpstart your brain. What do you mean? You haven't figured it out? I mean this. Dio's knife? No sooner were the words out of my mouth. Fi! I screamed and leapt toward them. Akane was already in motion, the knife diving toward Fi's chest. I was almost there. When I regained consciousness, I was on the floor. There was a dull pain in my chest. I felt for a cut, but something was in the way. It took me a moment to realize it was Akane's body lying on top of me. I twisted my neck to look around. Nearby was an old tombstone. On it was written a few words in Latin. Tu fui ego eris. What you are, I was. What I am, you will be. We're not done yet. There's a significant amount of post-credit stuff. Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of post-game, but yeah, we're not done yet. There's still a lot to see, but man, these last few episodes have been pretty long, but I'm okay with that. For the most part, though, I think you guys got the gist of what this game is about. So I believe I said previously that the timeline of events is 999, and then Zero Time Dilemma, and then Virtue's Last Reward. But Virtue's Last Reward is 45 years after all of that other stuff. So I think that if you were to make an actual full timeline of all of the routes and everything, I bet it exists. It has to. But it's gonna be a complicated little shit. Because 999 has all of these endings, right? And only one of those goes to Zero Time Dilemma, which also in itself has a bunch of endings. And only one of those, and not even the canon one of those, goes to VLR. Right? Which is interesting. I'll talk a little more about ZTD after we finish everything here. I'm gonna skip this. Doesn't look like it. So we'll just sit through the credits for now. Yeah, I'll tell you all. I'm probably not going to play Zero Time Dilemma on this channel. So part of me wants to, once everything is done, I'll even do shoutouts and everything, and then I'll talk about Zero Time Dilemma. And I'll put spoilers and stuff on the screen to make sure nobody who wants to play Zero Time Dilemma will be spoiled by what I'm talking about. So that'll come later. And shit, I have to figure all this out because I promised to show all the voices too. So we still got quite a ways to go on this episode, which is good. It, you know, kind of figuring everything else out. There's Phi, and the new destination was added to the flowchart, probably way in the long ago. Time After Time is the achievement I just got. Headquarters, April 13th, 2029. Let's go.
Today is April 13th, 2029, and this is the evening news. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I don't have any news to read. All of our station's reporters have passed after contracting Radical 6. So have excuse me. I've managed to keep us all on the air until now, but I'm out of tricks. It's time for me to sign off. This concludes our broadcast day. I pray that someday our world can be cleansed of this horrible plague. Goodbye.
For a moment, I just stared at the TV. The roar of the static seemed to fill the entire room until with a click it disappeared too.
Had the power gone out?
I heard footsteps behind me and turned around. You.
Akane? It looks like the first step was successful.
What the fuck? You killed me!
Killed?
I guess technically you're going to kill me 45 years from now, but still.
Hey, no need to be rude about it. I didn't kill you. I hit you with the butt of the knife. You're fine.
I'm okay?
Yes. You and Phi needed to experience a state of crisis. That was the only way.
Me and Phi?
Yes. I only told you about you, but we also needed Phi to jump.
I guess I'm kind of giving her the Lotus Alice voice, but Bobby's Akane voice was a little more high-pitched.
Now, you know what happens next, right?
I'm going to Clover. That's not what I need. Too many voices. I'll just do the Lotus Alice voice. It's fine. We go to the moon?
Correct. We will be leaving tomorrow, April 14th, 2029. We've nearly finished preparing your shuttle. Only a few last-minute checks and additions. You'll be traveling to Rhizome 9 along with the 3 treatment pods.
Alice and Clover, right?
Yes.
What about the third one? Who's in there?
Phi. We put her in a cold sleep 2 days ago. She appeared at our headquarters and volunteered to be frozen. That wasn't the Phi who jumped from point C, though. It was Phi who jumped from point A to point D. In other words, she was following the same path you are. And she still is.
Then that means that after you froze her, the point C version of her jumped back into her body?
Yes. The point C version of Phi is sleeping in that pod. She'll stay there for the next 45 years, sleeping in ice.
Then when she gets to point B, her consciousness will jump into point A, right?
Correct.
Huh. So that's why she didn't look old. So why don't you just stick me in one of the pods?
We can't do that.
Why not?
You haven't figured it out? You have to spend the next 45 years working on the AB project. After arriving at Rhizome 9, you must master genetic engineering and artificial intelligence programming, among other disciplines. Otherwise, you'll be unable to create Kyle, Luna, and Lagomorph. And, of course, you will need to develop the chromatic doors and bracelets. You will also be the person who summons Tenmyoji and Quark. Once you've completed all the preparations, then the project can actually begin. January 25th, 2074. You will defrost Phi and carry her into the third AB room. Once you've done that, the 22-year-old version of you will point A will force you out, and you'll just go back 45 years to your own body on December 25th, 2028.
And then I change history? Do you really think I can keep the virus from getting out?
You have to. If you don't, billions of people will die. Only you and Phi can save them.
What about you? Aren't you an Esper too?
I can't do anything on my own. If this is going to work, I'll need your help.
So, what do I need to do?
What do you mean?
Like, what specific actions do I need to take? When Phi and I jump to point A, what are you going to do then?
You'll both enter the Mars mission test site.
And after that?
I don't know.
What?
I'm sorry. I really don't know anything about what happens in there. We don't know how the Radical 6 escaped. We don't even know why it was there in the first place. Ah, crap.
Then we're screwed.
That's why we need your help. You have the ability to jump through time and across parallel worlds. We need you to figure out what happened in the test facility. Things will be difficult, and I'm sure you will find yourself in a great deal of danger. But I believe the two of you can overcome any obstacle.
Wait, how do you know it's so dangerous?
The 67-year-old version of you told me what happened. He wasn't able to stop the virus, so I suppose you could say you told me after you failed.
What did I say?
That the test facility is full of traps. There was one point, a woman's life was in danger. You risked your life for her sake and lost your arms and your right eye.
My arms and my right eye. What the hell? Suddenly, a low rumble shook the building. What was that?
Go have a look.
I moved slowly to the window and peered outside. On the horizon, I could see a massive mushroom cloud climbing slowly toward the sky. Would Ree really be able to change the course of history? No. That was the wrong way to look at it. It couldn't be a question. I had to change history. We could save the world. I'm going to change history. I stared at the darkening skies above us and steeled myself. I would succeed. End or beginning. Fire and Ice is the name of that achievement. It sucks that you guys don't get to see the achievements pop up. Since I was able to keep the PS4 anyway, I could have just kept playing this game the entire time on there, but that was unknown at that time. Infirmary, another time. Where?
I see you're finally woken up, Kyle.
Kyle?
Ah, da. Of course. You've only just woken up in this timeline. It's only natural for some of your memories to be missing.
I lurched upright, jumped out of the bed, and ran around to the other side of the partition. The mirror over the sink was covered with a film of dirt. I wiped it off with my sleeve and my reflection stared back at me. There was no mistake. The reflection belonged to Kyle Klein. So I'm Dr. Klein, Zero Senior's clone?
What? How do you know that? Shouldn't you still be suffering from amnesia?
An excellent question, one I didn't quite know the answer to myself. I knew who Kyle Klein was. In another history, he had been called K and had worn a suit of armor. He hadn't just worn the armor in that history, though. Apparently he'd worn it all his life. Kyle had been born and raised in this lunar installation, which seemed to be called Rhizome 9. Rather late in his life, Akane had appeared as a mother figure, and he had consequently grown very attached to her. I know everything about him, but even though I knew it, I didn't feel it. Was I really Kyle Klein? Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw his face. A spitting image of Sigma Climb in his younger days. I looked down. There was Dio, still handcuffed. I turned back around to Luna. What day is today?
January 27th, 2074.
Then today is the last day of the AB project. Akane has explained everything in the garden. Then she drew a knife and attacked Phi. How long have I been asleep?
About 5 hours in real time. For them it would have seemed like a little more than 2 hours.
So they still haven't been treated for the Radical 6?
No, they've all been given the antiviral. It just takes a while to have an effect.
Ah, I see. So the consciousness of the younger Sigma has gone back into the past. It should have happened right after Akane attacked Phi, right?
Da.
Why am I here?
The doctor carried you back here. You were in the pod in the garden.
So the person you call the Doctor is Sigma Climb, as inhabited by his age-appropriate consciousness?
But how do you know that?
Dio seems to have remained unconscious.
Da. I have been administering Soparol whenever he gets restless.
What about the others?
They've all gone off to different areas. Tenmyoji and Cork, for instance. Oh, right, Mr. Climb.
So the sleepyhead's finally up, huh?
What are you two doing here?
You don't know where we are?
This is the upper floor of the pressure exchange chamber. The real one.
Mm-hmm.
We were just about to get dressed and head out.
You plan to return then? To Earth, I mean?
Yeah.
Sigma told us where we could find the shuttle that brought us here. Well, guess he's not really the Sigma I knew anymore. He's Dr. Climb now, or Zero Senior, depending on how you look at it.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Well, I'm just curious why you would choose to return to a devastated planet when you could stay here.
How's staying here gonna help? You aren't gonna say something idiotic about how you should wait here until Sigma changes the past, are you? You can't wait for something that's already happened. Grammar doesn't work that way. Hell, nature doesn't work that way. You following me? We've already lived through history. Sigma failed to keep the virus from getting out. About 45 years ago, Radical 6 created a pandemic, and the antimatter reactors blew up. That all happened. Whatever Sigma does in the past, history is not going to change. In fact, it's because of what he did or didn't do in the past that we've got this past and present. Let me give you an example. Imagine a group of 100 motorcycles driving down an endless freeway. Eventually, they hit a junction. The road splits in two. One freeway continues off northwest, and the other stretches out to the northeast. So one guy, we'll call him S, pipes up. "Let's go northwest," he says. So they take the northwestern road, and about a mile past the intersection, something horrible happens. A semi driving the other way veers into their lane and plows through the bikers. 90 of them die. The surviving 10 are wounded, but survive. They don't stop, though. They keep riding down the highway, and eventually they'd gone 100,000 miles. 10,000 even. Then suddenly something happens that they just couldn't have predicted. S, who had survived, suddenly has his consciousness thrown back in time. He ends up back in his own body just before they reach the junction. He remembers everything. So what does S do? What anybody would do. Let's go northeast. That means all 100 of the bikers survive to reach their destination happy and healthy. And they all live happily ever after. That's what you're thinking, right? It's a great outcome for the 100 bikers who went northeast. But what about the 10 that went northwest and survived the accident?
Huh? Wouldn't it be 9 people? I mean, S's mind went back in time, right?
Ah, right. Okay, 9 people then. What happens in reality they were living? Does it just disappear when S changes the past? It's not as if the only bad things were happening during the 10,000-mile trip. Maybe one of them fell in love with a woman working at a gas station he stopped at and had a child. Maybe one of them picked up a homeless kid who joined them on their adventure. That 10,000-mile journey would be full of stories. Friendships, farewells, romances. The loss of those 90 lives is horrible and unfortunate, but what would rewriting their history mean? The 9 who survived lived full lives. How can it be right to just erase all that? The survivors overcame their own misery and loss and made the best way they could do with the hand they'd been dealt. Isn't that worth something? Isn't that just the best thing that humans can aspire to? Isn't there really any point to living where the world everyone's happy? Are people who struggle for a better life just idiots? Being human is just about fighting even when it seems hopeless, and finding happiness even in a world that hates it. Are you saying that's worthless? If you're saying rewriting the past will erase all those other timelines, then just whatever God wrote those rules can Look, I'm just not gonna escape that, alright? You getting it?
Oh my god. Fuck off, Tenmyoji. If Sigma changes the past, then you and Quark will never meet.
Is he right?
Why are you Clover all of a sudden, Quark?
Is he right?
No, it's not gonna happen. We're here right now. This is reality. Even if Sigma does change the past, we're not just gonna disappear or something.
Oh, then that means we're gonna stay together. Good.
Thanks, kid.
I understand how you feel. Why you want to return to Earth is clear. You have lives there, I imagine. There are likely people waiting for you.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Have you already said goodbye to the others?
Phi, Luna, Alice, and Clover all saw us off. We told them we'd see them again someday, and then came here.
They were the only people you wanted to say goodbye to?
No point saying anything to Dio.
Besides, he's asleep. You were asleep too.
Sorry, but we didn't really know much about you.
You have a point. Akane was in the armor in this timeline, after all. What about Sigma?
Well, he's not really Mr. Sigma anymore.
Of course. He's Dr. Klein now that his consciousness has returned.
Yeah, but more importantly, he's the guy who brought us all here. Not a lot of warm feelings there, you know?
And Akane?
Never mind her. She's just like him. Not the Akane I knew. She must have seen some pretty awful things over the years.
You say that like this is the first time she's organized a nonary game, Tenmyoji.
Hell, she might not even be human anymore. But the Hana Kurashiki I know isn't here. She's not anywhere.
In the end, Clover and I were just pawns. Pawns to be used and then gotten rid of. Still, it's not like we're completely resentful. We had to be here to help change the past. That part's easy to understand. But it kinda sucks, though. I mean, Sigma and Phi have it easy. They get to go back to December 25th in 2028. They'll stop the Radical Six and save the world, and then they'll have a nice, normal future to look forward to. In other words, they get to go back to Point E and just enjoy history like it was supposed to happen. But we don't. We're stuck with Point C as our starting point. You told us about Tenmyoji's story, right? The one with the motorcycles. It would be like if Alice and I were kidnapped right before the intersection. Then whoever grabbed us will take us to whatever the bikes are going, 10,000 miles to the northwest. Don't get us wrong, we know we had to be here. Without us, S's consciousness wouldn't have been able to go back right before the intersection. If that couldn't happen, then the fate of those 90 dead bikers would be sealed. But it's still not the best situation for those of us left in the northwest. We're stuck in the reality where the 90 bikers died. Are we just supposed to go live on Earth? It's a wasteland now. And what about our friends and families? We left a whole world behind 4 to 5 years ago. Even if it is for the greater good, it just doesn't seem fair, does it? Yeah, it's a little bit much. So we went and talked to the old lady. She told us there is one way. One way we can get back to the past.
Let's say you do go back to the past. Wouldn't that cause your minds to get thrown back here? That seemed to be how Sigma and Phi's jumped worked, at least.
Yes, you're right. But this is different.
Different? How so?
From what she said, it sounds like there's a way we can send our bodies back in time, too.
That's ridiculous. It would create a paradox. How could you have 2 Clovers and 2 Alices at the same time?
But that wouldn't happen. Akane says there's a way around that.
How on earth does she plan to do that?
Schrodinger's cat.
Oh, hey Kyle. Figured you'd come here eventually. Where's Dr. Klein? Luna said you were with him. He said he was tired, so he's off resting now. There's a bedroom at the end of the hallway. He's in there if you're curious. Oh, right. He told me to turn on his hologram projector thing when you showed up. Want me to start it? Sure. Glad to see you. There isn't anything in particular that I have to tell you. However, I imagine there's a great number of things weighing on your mind. I'd love to answer all your questions, but unfortunately my circumstances make that an impossibility. I hope you can forgive me. Everything I know, Phi should also know. I have instructed her to answer any questions anyone might have. Anyone other than Kyle, that is. What does he mean, other than Kyle? Who knows? Is there anything you want to ask? Right, well, I guess I may as well cut to the chase. Just who are you, Phi? I'm not Superman, that's for sure. And I'm not Batman, or Spider-Man, or Aquaman, or Merman, or a Wolfman. I'm not a Brahmin, or a Common, or Ramen. I'm not a Cayman either, so you don't really need to worry about anything. Please don't dodge the question. About 5 hours ago, Akane attacked you with a knife. That triggered something which sent your mind back to the past, correct? Specifically, you were sent to Point D, April 13th, 2029. On that date, your body was already in Akane's custody. Although by then you were in cold sleep. You wouldn't have regained consciousness, but your mind was now inhabiting that body. That pod was your home for 45 years. You slept there, frozen until the time was right. Then, on January 25th, 2074, you were finally thawed out, even though you didn't wake up. Still unconscious, you were carried to the AB room. That was when your consciousness changed bodies again. A version of you from December 25th, 2028 arrived, pushing you out, and sending you back to December 25th, 2028. This is when you finally woke up. In 2028, you found and joined forces with Sigma, whose older mind was inhabiting his younger body. Together, you attempted to infiltrate the Mars mission test facility. Unfortunately, your plan failed. The Radical Six did escape on New Year's Eve. That failure determined the path you followed. Instead of going along the line that branches out to the right from Point E, you headed straight to Point D. Point D being April 13th of the following year. That was the day you made your way to Akane's hideout and asked to be put in one of the treatment pods. Another consciousness entered your body around that time from the future. It is, of course, the version of you that left your body when Akane attacked you in the garden. This caused the two versions of you to swap places, and you moved 45 years into the future where you woke up on the garden floor. That puts you on the line that comes here. So if we discount the time you spent in cold sleep, for you only 3.5 months have passed since that happened. That being when you were sent back from the past from the garden. Have I missed anything? No, everything you talked about you got was right. What do you mean by that? I'm kind of an unknown variable in this equation. You could think of me as kind of an X factor. It's taken me at least 3.5 months to understand it. And I haven't understood anything in the last 3.5 seconds. Could you please explain? It's kind of like the relationship between classical I've been talking a lot, I'm sorry. It's kind of like the relationship between classical mechanics and modern physics. Strictly speaking, you can't combine velocities with v1 plus v2. v1 plus v2 divided by 1 plus v1 times v2 divided by c to the second power is the actual equation. Of course, the sort of velocity we encounter in day-to-day life doesn't come close to being c squared, which is the speed of light squared. That means that 1 plus v1 times v2 divided by c squared is usually going to evaluate to something pretty close to 1. Since that would mean dividing by 1, it's usually okay to just skip that step and use v1 plus v2. You see what I'm saying? In most situations it works, even if it isn't technically correct. So you knew enough to get the stuff you were talking about right. As long as you stick to that, you won't run into any problems. I don't quite understand. In fact, I feel like you're dodging my questions. So is that what you wanted to ask about? No. What I really want to know is what happened between Christmas and New Year's Eve in 2028. You and Sigma infiltrated the Mars mission test site, didn't you? Yes. What happened there? How did Sigma lose his eye and both his arms? And why was Radical 6 in there in the first place? What could a deadly virus have to do with a simulated mission to space? Sorry, but I can't tell you that. Why? Because it would change history and spoil the next game. There's a history where the virus didn't escape. That's the line that goes to the right of Point E. In that timeline, humanity isn't heading for annihilation and the Earth isn't red. The future is much brighter. But if I tell you what you're asking me right now, that reality will disappear. You understand? I don't. Why would all of that disappear if you told me what I want to know? You're about to go back to the past, right? The past? Don't be silly. I can't do that. Then where the hell did you learn all this stuff? I just listened to you tell me a bunch of things you shouldn't have known about. You were sleeping in the pod in the garden. You just woke up. So how can you know all this? You know my past. Sigma's past. I shall give you your answer. You are not Kyle Klein. Your body is Kyle's, but your consciousness is not. Think about it. Do you really believe you are Kyle? Or could you be someone else entirely? Then, where is the real Kyle's consciousness? He was thrown out when you got entered. Right now, in a manner of speaking, he has arrived at December 25th, 2028. His consciousness has gone into a body from that time. I doubt you would know how much the Doctor loves Kyle. Fuck off. He raised him on his own. Kyle is irreplaceable. Do you really think he would go back to the past and leave Kyle behind here? I know what I told the others, that Kyle was Dr. Clem's spare, but that was not his only purpose. Kyle's consciousness is integral to what we're trying to accomplish. This new mission begins on Christmas and ends on New Year's Eve 2028. Its purpose will be to infiltrate this test facility and prevent the spread of the virus. For this to happen, Kyle is absolutely necessary. And that is why he created him? Yes. So now that my consciousness has entered his body, the Doctor has achieved his objective. Kyle has gone back to 2028 to participate in his mission. Correct. There's one thing that troubles me. Kyle was created before reaching point B from point D. That means his body did not exist on Christmas in 2028. Does that mean he has entered my body? Have we just switched places? I suppose you could put it that way, yes. That's ridiculous. What's going to happen to me? Are you telling me that I have spent the rest of my life here in this box, living in a borrowed body? No, not at all. You can travel freely through time and space. You are an uncontrolled variable that entered our closed system. As such, the rules of this world do not apply to you. I have no idea what you... Please don't try to play dumb. I know what you are. Surely you must know by now too. You are about to go in the past and save the world. Phi and Sigma, even with all their future knowledge, will need your help. Only you can right the horrible wrongs of our past. Only you can save the world. There's no way Yes, there is. You have to. Don't you want to know the truth? Don't you want to know what happened in between Christmas and New Year's Eve in 2028? Well, yes, I do, but then you must believe. Reality is shaped by what we believe reality should be. If observation can change the motion of a particle, then how is it odd to think that a human thought can shape reality? Your will can change history. The world would be reshaped into the one you imagine. Remember what I've told you. Only you can change history. Only you can save the world. Alternative end. A certain point of view is the achievement I got. Fuck off, Obi-Wan. And I think that is it. That is every space on the flowchart throughout the entire thing. The ending of this game is basically nothing but a setup for Zero Time Dilemma. Now, before I tell you about Zero Time Dilemma, I want to turn on the voices, and so that you guys can hear all the voices of all the characters. So, no, fuck off, bro. Yeah, I know, I got it. This happens every time. If I save at the flowchart and then continue, it always goes and does that first cutscene again. Menu, okay. Stop. Fuck, can I not go back to the main menu? Quit. Yes. Options.
Isn't that obvious?
We did that same fucking thing again. Sorry about that. Sigma does not have a voice. Actually, what we can do... Kind of. Alright, I got an idea. I was going to go to the beginning like we did before, but we'll just do what that last one was where we were going and talking to everybody. And we'll just skip through and talk to each person. Because Kyle does talk. Kyle's body talks. But Sigma regular doesn't talk. So let's go to the flowchart. Here we go. And I'll just skip through after we hear a couple lines from them.
Where?
I see you've finally woken up, Kyle.
Kyle?
Ah, yes. Of course. You've only just woken up in this timeline. It's only natural for some of your memories to be missing.
It's wrong now? Look, okay, don't get me wrong. I fucking love Laura Bailey, and I think that she does an excellent job as Luna in this game. But now that she's Russian in my mind, it's wrong, and I don't like it anymore. Other stuff, yeah. All of that stuff. It's just reflex for me to read it at this point. Come on. I got it.
Kyle Klein. So, I'm Dr. Klein? Zero Senior's clone?
So I believe that Kyle's voice is generally the same voice actor who does K for most of the game, just with a filter added onto it like I was doing with the cup, right? So that's just his usual voice.
What? How do you know that?
Okay, and we'll skip forward to go see Tenmyoji and Quark.
Oh, right. Mr. Klein.
So the sleepyhead's finally up, huh?
What are you two doing here?
You don't know where we are?
This is the upper floor of the pressure exchange chamber. The real one.
Mm-hmm.
We were just about to get dressed and head out.
I mean, you know, my voices weren't too dissimilar from these, really. Let's go ahead and skip forward and go see Alice and Clover. You already know Clover's voice because we
They
met...
get to go back to December 25th in 2028. They'll stop the Radical Six and save the world, and then they'll have a nice, normal future to look forward to. In other words, they get to go back to Point E and just enjoy history like it was supposed to happen.
But we don't. We're stuck with Point C as our starting point.
You told us about Tenmyoji's story, right? The one with the motorcycles? It would be like if Alice and I were kidnapped right before the intersection. Then whoever
Talk more,
grabbed
Alice.
Don't get us wrong. We know why we had to be here. Without us, S's consciousness wouldn't have been able to go back to right before the intersection.
Yeah, I mean, again, we heard Clover's before, and I think that my Alice voice is okay. So, I mean, that works out.
If that
Skip forward, go see Phi.
Luna said you were with him.
He said he was tired, so he's off resting right now. There's a bedroom at the end of the hallway. He's in there if you're curious. Oh, right. He told me to turn on this hologram projector thing when you showed up.
Right, okay.
Want me to start?
Maybe Old Man Sigma has a voice, we'll see.
Glad to see you. There isn't anything in particular that I have to tell you.
Hold on.
However, I imagine there are a great number of things weighing on your mind.
I know that
I'd
voice.
love to answer all your questions, but unfortunately, my circumstances make that an impossibility. I hope you can forgive me.
I heard this recently. Who is talking?
Everything I know, Phi should also know. I have instructed her to answer any questions anyone might have. Anyone other than Kyle, that is.
It's Sojiro
What does he
in Persona
mean,
5 Royal.
Other than Kyle.
Who knows?
Interesting. Let's go talk to Akane. I don't think it's the same voice as before. I don't think it's Rina Strober. Because it's going to be an old lady voice.
You are not Kyle Klein. Your body is Kyle's, but your consciousness is not.
Yeah, old lady voice. And then we should probably go see Dio as well. And then I should have just done this one in the first place. Hopefully this will work. That's not what I meant. Fuck. Faux shark. Up one. It's not a Batman, Superman, Cayman, Layman, etc. From what I understand, she's not those things.
Yeah.
Oh my lord. Okay, 10 Myoji. Gotta talk to Dio.
The smoke?
No, Mr.
That would be me. This little guy here is Quark.
Nice to meet you, mister.
Right, and then K. Oh yeah, K doesn't show up till
OG,
later.
Alice and Luna all woke up in different elevators.
Let's see if we can skip towards K. Oh, I should get Zero Jr. Shit.
What's that?
Clover! Are you okay? Clover, wake up!
Yes,
What
Clover.
did you...
Oh shit.
Then
Skip
she
right past.
hasn't. Kidnapped? Begging your pardon, but
Yeah, see, he's just got the kind of like hollowish voice like I've been doing with the cup. Let's see if Zero Jr. speaks up.
Of course I don't. You're some kind of CG rabbit or something, probably. That's not what I meant, though.
Oh! You meant you want to see the person who's controlling me? Yes, God touched this one a little too hard.
Yeah. So I think you've heard all the voices now. And they're good. I mean, it's a decent English dub on this one. I'm going to be able to play through this game again and be like, yeah, okay, I'll just listen to the voices, and that'll be fine. I don't think I can do that with 999 again. I think that if I want to re-experience 999, I have to watch through the Cactus Core Let's Play, because otherwise it's just going to be missing so much good shit. And I hope that I made it worthwhile watching this time around. By myself, it's a little more difficult, but I did my best, and it's not going to be as charming just by myself. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this series. I am going to talk about Zero Time Dilemma in just a minute, but first I'll do my shout out so that anybody who doesn't want to be spoiled for the third game can bail before that. So my shout out is going to go to an obvious one. I'm going to go back to the very beginning and do a second shout out to Kotaro Uchikoshi, who is the planner and director of these games, who did Zero Escape 999, VLR's ZTD, as well as AI the Somnium Files, and a few other games. He worked on Pepsi Man as a texture maker or something. He has a new game called World's End Club that came out on Apple recently, but it's coming to Switch early next year. I'm avoiding spoilers for that one. And then there was some other game that I have in my wish list on Steam that I haven't played yet, but I love Uchikoshi. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful man. But that's going to be it for that. So, as of now, I'm going to be talking about Zero Time Dilemma, which is the third game, the final game in the Zero Escape trilogy. The worst one, also, because I'm probably not going to be playing it on this channel. The way that it works is... Let me get comfortable, because I'm going to talk about this quite a bit. So, like they said before, it's taking place in that week between Christmas and New Year's in 2028. Sigma has the old man Sigma's consciousness in his brain. Future Phi is also in Phi's brain. The game opens with 9 people all being locked up into a jail-looking thing. There's Sigma, Phi, young Junpei, young Akane, and then the other 5 people are not people that we know. One of them is named Diana. She is who Sigma molded Luna to look like. So she's got the red hair, all that kind of stuff. The same kind of colored clothing and all that. There's also a little boy with a head who's covered in like a big circular thing. And for the most of the game, you call him Q. He's doing that thing like 7 and K did, where he's got the amnesia, because that's just a thing that Uchikoshi likes to go back to. He never quite lets that well run dry. Even in Somnium Files. Then there's a woman named Mira and her fiance Eric, who are in the same team as Q. So yeah, it's 3 teams. It's Sigma, Diana, and Phi is one team called D Team. Then there's C Team, which is Junpei, Akane, and a blonde guy named Carlos, who's a firefighter. And then there's Q Team, which is Q, Mira, and Eric. And basically, they're all locked up in jail in the very beginning of the game. And Zero, who walks out looking like a witch doctor, not a witch doctor, a plague doctor, fucking Plague Knight, kind of. And in the beginning of the game, you have to decide, heads or tails, and he flips a coin. And whatever you pick that first time is the right answer, and he just lets you all go. And then you go to the flowchart, and you're like, hey, I got an ending already, sweet. Then you got to go back and do the second one, where you pick the wrong one and have to start the nonary game. Now, this game does not have the same kind of flowchart as this one does. Well, okay, in actuality, it does. It just isn't nearly as straightforward. It's not as straightforward as this spiderwebby mess. You know what I mean? Basically, you do these escape rooms a lot, but they're not in order. You have no idea which one is related to each one, basically. So, say you're on C Team, and you look at one, and you're like, okay, this here is a thing. Sorry. I'm going to do this escape room here. And, sometimes maybe just one of the characters is missing. They don't know why. Every time they are put to sleep after they do an escape room, they lose their memories from any time that was before or after that initial coin flip, right? So no matter how many things you've done, they don't remember those things. So if somebody, let's say Junpei, dies in a C Team 1, now it's going to be randomly placed on the flowchart in this one area, and you have no idea what things are related to it. Sometimes you'll even do some escape rooms and he's just not there. And you're like, what the fuck? Where's Junpei? And Akane's like, where the fuck is this dude at? And then, you just find his fucking head in the freezer. And you're like, wah! And then Akane goes nuts and kills everybody. It's great. There's lots and lots of endings. Lots and lots of endings here. Also, the teams have to collaborate. So they all have to vote separately. They can't talk to each other. C Team doesn't talk to D Team, doesn't talk to Q Team. They all have to vote together and say, hey, I'm willing to vote for this other team to die. If all 3 of the teams vote in one particular way, where everybody has 1 point, nobody dies. Otherwise, Zero will just murder shower one of those teams. So you see all of these teams die at some point. Many, many times, actually. Zero Time Dilemma really kind of takes the idea of the Saw aspect that these first 2 games kind of have and goes really hard on it. Throughout the game, you see all sorts of things that just are incongruous, right? It's not in a linear fashion in any way, shape, or form, which is the major reason why I don't like it very much. Also, in some ways, it doesn't really fulfill what the end of this game tells you. You never see Kyle in that game. I mean, the Sigma that you run into, it's Sigma. It's old man Sigma in young man Sigma's body. It's not Kyle. So, one of the things that Uchikoshi hates the most is when people be like, where's Kyle? I'm like, well, yeah, he wasn't there. But, anyway, you go through, you see all these alternate timelines, right? Sometimes one team escapes and the other teams die. Sometimes, some teams are left behind forever because they can't escape. And they basically just have to survive. In one of those, Phi dies early on, and Sigma's left with Diana. They get trapped inside the facility forever. They can never leave. They do the natural thing. They end up boning. and have some Babbo. Actually, twins. Who they find out that they can send these twins back in time using this one little portal thing. They can't fit into it as adults, but they can send small things back in time using this. So they send the twins back in time. The twins end up at different times. And in fact, those twins' names are Phi and Delta. Yes, Phi was Sigma's daughter this entire time. I don't think that Uchikoshi knew that when he was making this game. Virtue's Last Reward, I mean. Otherwise, it's kind of creepy. But Sigma doesn't know that, because this happened at a different time, but because they sent them through a different time, it's still canon for all of these times, despite the fact that there's only one Virtue's Last Reward timeline in Zero Time Dilemma. Look, I know I'm the Charlie Day Pepe Sylvia gif right now, but so yeah. Also, it turns out that Q, the little boy, was always just known by a name. You know, Q never referred to the little boy. That was just how we thought he was referred to. But they never actually say that in the game. You just assume that. There was always just a fourth person that was just kind of off screen, and that would be Delta. But Delta is in a wheelchair, and he can't speak and he can't see or anything. He's just kind of there, so he never interacts with anybody. You never see him until the very end of the game, when suddenly he stands up and reveals himself to be Zero. Q, the little boy, turns out to actually be a robot a la Luna, who he takes his mask off and there's just nothing underneath it. So Delta is Brother, head of Free the Soul, and he creates the clones of himself who become Left and Dio's clones and all that kind of stuff. He also, through his machinations, creates Radical 6 and releases it throughout Zero Time Dilemma. But his ultimate goal... Well, I guess he didn't really create it. He ended up releasing it, but it did already exist. But his ultimate goal was to be in a world where that doesn't happen. He talks a lot about snails and you know, how life is very cruel. Like a family decided to go down a different path because there's a snail in the way, and because they did that, they ended up being murdered, actually by Mira, who is a cold-blooded bitch who murdered a bunch of people in Sacramento, which that's where I'm from, and I was very confused when I was playing the game on 3DS the first time. I'm like, did they just use local stuff to know where it was? No, it's actually just fucking Sacramento that all of that took place in. She's a serial killer, and Eric doesn't know. He's just a fucking simp for her. He's like, hey, I love you, Mira. And then, you know, there's one ending where she just reaches in and grabs his heart and just like, oh, I just love to feel these things because I don't really feel my own. She's nutso. But yeah, he's just a simp. Also, the same voice actor as Torbjorn, which is really, really weird. Anyway. So let's see. So then at the end of one of them, also there's a doggo. He's a very old man doggo, who is able to bring notes to each of the teams through the vents. What's his name? I forget the dog's name. Anyway, finally, you know, they do everything right in one timeline in Zero Time Dilemma, and they all end up together, all three teams. And you know, Delta reveals himself, and Phi is pissed off, and she's like, "Hey, fuck you." When she finds out that Diana is her mother, who seems is the same age. Oh, also in this game, Phi has orange eyebrows, but she dyes her hair white because she doesn't like her natural hair color, and I should have seen it coming right from then. Anyway. So. Shit. I'm gonna take a drink, because Pepe Sylvia. What they end up doing to get the true ending is all of them, somehow, are able to jump their minds from the end of where they understand everything to the one where the coin flip was where they were able to leave. So they trade consciousnesses with the people who were able to make it out that first coin flip. And then they go out and Zero's like, hey, I saved the world. Radical 6 will not come out, and you guys know how to prevent it from happening. I have very complex motives. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. Overall, I like the plot of Zero Time Dilemma. I just don't like the way that it's executed. At all, really. It's kind of a clusterfuck, and it kind of drives me crazy. But yeah, if you've listened this far, I'm assuming you're not going to watch it, or maybe you will. If I ever, at some point, do go back and play that game on this channel, which it's possible. I don't know that I want to put myself through it. I've never really felt the want to go back and play through it again, because it kind of sucks. I played through it on the 3DS, which is the worst version, by the way. I do have it also on Steam, but whatever. But yeah, I guess that's everything here. I've talked a lot. There's a lot of stuff that happens in that game that I'm not, covering because it's not as necessary. I'm probably missing some actually necessary stuff. But for the purposes of VLR, there's one thing where, part of the facility explodes, and in order to save Diana, Sigma sacrifices his arm and one of his eyes. He just gets ridiculously burned. And he's like, oh, I know this timeline. This is the one that's going to go to VLR. So basically, the overarching flowchart is all of those differing paths. There's only like 6 endings for 999, right? The true ending to that flows into Zero Time Dilemma, which then has a bunch of endings, not as many as VLR does, but a bunch of endings. And only one of them, not the true one, only one of those goes all the way down to where VLR is and splits off into all these extra parts. It's a lot. It's a lot to handle and to understand. And it's why I don't understand why people would play Virtue's Last Reward and say, hey, I get this, without having playing 999 first. It's also partially why I like 999 the best. I've mentioned many times throughout this series that Virtue's Last Reward gets really repetitive sometimes, especially when I'm saying the words. Because there's some times where I can't skip it, but it's still pretty much exactly the same as it was before. And I feel like that wears on me quite a bit. There's also just a lot of complication with this game, and even more so when you get to ZTD. I can't even imagine trying to play Zero Time Dilemma without having played the first 2 games, but I'm sure people have. They're nuts. But, yeah, shit. I've been talking a lot for 4 hours now, because I recorded this episode and the one before this today, back to back. And, oh boy. But that's going to be it for Zero Escape Virtue's Last Reward. I'm not jumping into Zero Time Dilemma. Like I just explained, I'm not probably going to play that on the channel. If I do, it's not going to be for a while, because I just don't want to. But I told you all about it, so you're not missing a whole hell of a lot. I mean, you're missing some. You don't know really who Carlos is or who Diana is or anything like that. I didn't really give you a whole lot of information about them, but it's still good information for you guys to have. But that's going to be it for this series. I'm glad that you guys stuck with me. This is the 47th episode of Virtue's Last Reward, so we didn't beat Phoenix Wright for it to be the longest series on the channel, but it's by far my longest series that we've had. So yeah, what is going to happen tomorrow then, if Virtue's Last Reward is done? The answer to that is I'm going to be trying Danganronpa. I picked up Danganronpa 1+2 HD, whatever the fuck it is, on PS4. I've played like maybe an hour of Danganronpa in the past before I just kind of lost interest, but I think that me playing it on the channel will make me stick with it. My friend Roddick really likes it. He in fact called 999 bootleg Danganronpa, and I got really irritated because A, 999 came out first, and B, fuck you, 999 is great. But we'll see what the hype is all about, because Danganronpa is definitely the bigger series here. So I am going to check that out and finally see what all the hullabaloo with that series is about. So join me next time when we're going to go to school. So I will see you then. Later, players.